When you hear the word lipid, what's the first thing that pops into your head? I bet for a lot of us, it's just one simple word: fat. But oh, they are so much more than that. They are the absolutely essential and, yeah, often misunderstood building blocks of our bodies.
For what feels like forever, we've been hearing that fat is the enemy, right? But is it really that black and white? In this explainer, we're going to slice right through all that noise and get to the heart of what lipids really are and why life itself would be impossible without them.
All right, so to really get a handle on lipids, we've got to go back to square one. We're going to build our understanding from the ground up, and it all starts with one fundamental rule that defines this entire class of molecules. So what makes a lipid, well, a lipid? The one big thing that ties them all together? It's right there in the definition. They just do not dissolve in water. This one property dictates pretty much everything about what they look like and what they do in our bodies.
And honestly, you see this all the time. Think about it. You can shake up that salad dressing like crazy, but give it a minute and what happens? The oil and vinegar split right back up. That's because the oil is a lipid. This whole water-fearing thing, the sciencey term is hydrophobic, that is rule number one. It's the big one. So what's the basic recipe for most of the lipids we eat or, store in our bodies? Well, take a look. You've got this glycerol part, kind of like a backbone, and then you attach 3 of these fatty acid tails to it. Slap them together, and you get what's called a triglyceride. Just think of these as our basic Lego bricks. They're the pieces we use to build all sorts of bigger, more complicated fats. Okay, so once we have those basic Lego bricks, our bodies get to work being master builders. They can construct this incredible variety of lipids, and each one has a really specialized job. We can group them into a few major families. First up, you've got your simple lipids. That's like the triglyceride we just saw. Pretty straightforward. But then things get interesting. You start adding extra little bits and pieces, like a phosphate group, and boom, you've got complex lipids. And finally, there are the derived lipids. These are basically made from the leftover parts when you break down the other two. See? It's a neat little progression, from simple to super complex. Now, let's talk about one of the superstar complex lipids, the phospholipid. This thing has a total split personality. It's got a head that absolutely loves water, but a tail that, you guessed it, hates water. And because of this love-hate relationship, they automatically line up in this amazing double layer that forms the outer wall of every single cell in your body. They are literally the gatekeepers of life. And now for another famous family member, this time from the derived lipids, steroids. You can always spot them by their signature look, that 4-ring structure you see here. It's like their family crest. And get this, the granddaddy of all of them is cholesterol. From cholesterol, our bodies whip up these super important hormones like testosterone and estrogen, the body's master messengers, running around telling everything what to do. All right, let's dive into the big one, the hot topic, saturated versus unsaturated. I know you've heard these words thrown around a million times, but what do they actually mean? Let's clear this up for good. Okay, look really closely at these 2 pictures. On the left, you've got a saturated fatty acid. See how it's just a long, straight line? Now look at the right, the unsaturated one. It's got this kink in it, a bend. And that bend is all because of a little thing called a double bond between 2 of its carbon atoms. Seriously, that's it. That's the whole difference right there. And I know it sounds like a tiny detail, but that one little kink in the chain, well, it changes everything. It might look small, but that single structural difference has huge, real-world consequences for how these fats act, both on your plate and inside your body. And you can see exactly what I mean right here. Because those saturated fats are all straight, they can pack together really, really tightly. Think of stacking logs. That's why they're solid at room temperature, like butter. But that kink in the unsaturated fats, it makes them clumsy. They can't stack neatly, so they stay all loose and liquidy, like olive oil. And this physical difference totally changes how our bodies handle them. And that's where all the talk about good and bad cholesterol comes into play. But hold on, this doesn't mean one is the villain and the other is the hero. As this quote points out, it's not about cutting one out completely. For your body to be healthy, you actually need both. The real secret, like with so many things in life, right? It's all about balance. So we've covered that lipids are builders and messengers. That's already a pretty big deal, but trust me, their resume is way, way longer than that. Let's zoom out and look at all the other critical jobs they're doing for us 24/7. I mean, just look at this list. It's kind of mind-blowing. They're not just storing energy, they're the insulation that keeps you warm, they're the padding that protects your vital organs, and this is wild. They actually form the electrical insulation around your neurons, kind of like the rubber coating on a wire. Without that, your brain just couldn't send signals properly. On top of all that, you literally can't absorb certain essential vitamins, A, D, E, and K, without fat to carry them. And hey, when we say energy storage, we're not talking about a little backup battery. The source material points out that just 16 kilograms of body fat holds something like 144,000 kilocalories of energy. That is an insane amount of fuel packed into a pretty small package.
It's just amazing how versatile these molecules are. You know the waxy coating on an apple that makes it shiny? That's a lipid. The cholesterol in your skin, the sun hits it, and boom, you've got vitamin D. They're not just inside our bodies. They're literally everywhere in the biological world.
Okay, so let's bring this all home and talk about what it means for our health. We've seen just how essential lipids are. But, like any really powerful tool, their effects, good or bad, is all about balance.
So what happens when that delicate balance gets thrown way off? Well, the consequences can be pretty serious. A lot of major health issues are tied directly to when our bodies can't process and use lipids the right way. This is exactly why getting a handle on this stuff is so important.
So, if there's one big idea I want you to walk away with, it's this. Forget the simple good fat, bad fat story. It's just not that simple. These are essential, powerful, and incredibly complex molecules. It's all about context, it's all about their job, and most of all, it's all about balance.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. Now that you know they build your cells, they fuel your body, they run your hormones, the whole conversation changes, doesn't it? The real question isn't, is fat bad? The real question is, what's the right balance?